Okay, DC. I see you with the Justice League WarWorld movie. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, everyone. It is I, the Domo whose door is always open. Gandalf without the gray or the white because I'm all black. Jordan LaForge captaining this enterprise and a man in deep need of a haircut, which is coming at the end of this week, I swear. I am Left Eye Ego, guys. And I know that AJ and I talked about this maybe weeks before it came out, but WarWorld, the animated movie by DC, dropped a few weeks ago, and so I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it and give him my humble review on it. This is actually largely based on the idea that James Gunn recently announced that DC animated movies that are tied to his DC universe are going to get theatrical releases. And so, for some of us, we may remember back in the day when Batman Mask of the Phantasm came out in movie theaters. And for those of the more recent age, we've got Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And so I'm thinking between that time, there really were that many animated movie releases that were put in the theater. So it's garnered some excitement. And so I'm thinking that WarWorld is kind of a prelude of things to come. So I wanted to go ahead and give you guys my review of that and going over our ego statistics. And we don't do that 1 to 5 star crap over here. It is 1 to 5 ego. All right, so for this movie, we're going to be going based on the casting. We are going to be going off of the plot, the pacing, and the animation style. Because I know that for the creatives out there, the artists, and the Bruce Tim purists, we've got to compare this art style compared to this animation style compared with the others. So with that, let's get to it. So in general, this comic book movie, this adaptation is actually based off the 2022 WarWorld saga that was written by, I believe, Grant Morrison and Philip Kennedy Johnson. It was more of a Superman centric or a Superman and the Authority centric comic book. But for its adaptation for the DC animated movie, it involves both Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And so, based on that, I'll just go ahead and give you guys the quick summary on that one. WarWorld, a place of unending, brutal gladiatorial combat. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and others must unite to form an unbeatable resistance to lead the entire planet to freedom. If we're just going off of the casting alone for this movie, I'm going to give it 4 egos. Anytime you can have Matt Bomer, who I considered Henry Cavill's replacement as Superman, anytime you can have Matt Bomer in your animated movies and he literally is just called Old Man, you're doing something pretty decent with your casting here. It was led mainly by Batman, who was actually voiced by Jensen Ackles, which did a very, very good job. He's the closest that I've heard to Kevin Conroy without actually trying to mimic Kevin Conroy. His voice was both deep and gravelly, but it wasn't trying to sound like Batman. It was saying, hey, this is my take on Batman. It's not going to be, I'm just talking like this because it sounds like I was really trying to be really gruff and talking really low. It wasn't that. It would have some weight behind his voice, which I really did like. Superman was played by Darren Cross. I was portraying a younger version of Superman, which you could actually kind of hear in the interaction Superman would have with some of the other characters, especially with Jensen Ackles' Batman. So what I noted was that it was a voice of Superman that was trying to find his way, but had strong morals and was uncompromising to that end. He would kind of bend and kind of go along with the situation, but he would not cross his own moral lines. Wonder Woman was played by Stana Katic. She was the one I had the most trouble with. It seemed that in certain settings, when she was Wonder Woman, she was trying to play like when they put Wonder Woman in the Wild West. She was trying to give kind of a Southern twang or trying to sound really gruff. And in others, she was trying to sound like what she thought Gal Gadot would sound like as an animated version of Wonder Woman, if that makes sense. And so sometimes the accent would change. It would get kind of confusing. But if that was her whole character choice, was to actually make her voice sound ambiguous so you couldn't tell it was her until there was the reveal that, oh, this is Wonder Woman, I guess it would make sense in that regard. Also, we had a few more people with this cast. Other notable actors and actresses in this were, again, Matt Bomer playing Old Man. We had Frank Grillo as Agent Faraday, which is a throwback character. Joe DiMaggio did an absolutely superb job as Lobo. Again, there is the Lobo of old a few years ago that was really gruff, deep, and was the main man, guys. And Frank Grillo's was close to that too. I actually liked his interpretation of Lobo. Still was a badass with still trying to play the game as well when it came to Mongol and WarWorld. Next, we've got the plot, and I'll be straight up with you guys. I will also give the plot for E.G.Os. It seemed very simple. Hey, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman and trapped on WarWorld. They have to find a way to get to each other and get off WarWorld before Mongol catches them, right? Seemed very simple and maybe something that you've seen in isolated fashion before. I know that in Superman, when they had the Justice League, there was the episode for The Man That Has Everything that had Superman getting trapped beside a parasite, and he was stuck on a version of Krypton where Krypton survived. And I know that for Batman the Animated Series, there was Perchance to Dream. It was the episode where Batman gets trapped in a world where he doesn't have to be Batman, and it winds up being an illusion created by the Mad Hatter. What I don't think I had seen, or many people for that matter had seen, that made this different was the fact that you'd never seen the Trinity in that situation, where it's not a situation to where they don't have to be the superhero or their homeworld survives, but they're in completely different time zones and represent completely different people. And I wasn't sure if they were supposed to be dream scenarios or just they were just being put into a role and kind of acted it out as if it was almost a video game. But I really enjoyed the version that put Wonder Woman as a gunslinger. Batman was a mercenary in what seemed like the Savage Lands, and Superman was actually like a 1950s government agent, like a maybe not necessarily FBI or anything like NSA, but hey, we're in charge of special investigations. And so while the overall plot remained the same, you would see Wonder Woman have her own subplot within the movie where she's Gunslinger Wonder Woman. She's in a town where it needs defending. She has to defend it before she moves on to the next stage. They would enter into Batman being the Savage Lands, a mercenary who has to actually guide the people that have captured him to Deimos to defeat Deimos before he can go to the next stage. And with Superman, which was actually a really great scenario, also was, hey, an alien has landed and the alien is in this room. Who is it? We have to figure out who the alien is, neutralize the threat before we can move on to the next level. And so I really loved the fact that even though there was a grander plot that was portraying in the movie, they had each character have their own subplot, which didn't take away from the movie itself and distract you, but gave you a little bit more insight into Wonder Woman's character, Batman's character, and Superman's character before they all met up to go at Mongo on WarWorld. Next thing we have is the pacing, which I'm giving 5 egos based on the fact that it wasn't too frenetic where something was constantly happening and I'm having to look left and right, up and down. I have to hear it and try to follow everything at one time. But it also wasn't incredibly slow to the point where I couldn't wait for this movie to be over. I actually would get so interested in the fact that I'm watching Wonder Woman as a gunslinger. I'm watching Batman as this badass axe wielding mercenary, and I'm watching Clark Kent try to actually solve a mystery as Clark Kent, not having to be Superman to save the day, but actually using the clues in front of him and his intelligence to try to sort out who the extraterrestrial is. Sometimes I actually got so caught up in their specific scenario on WarWorld, I almost forgot that, oh, the goal is for them to find each other, remember who they are, and get off of WarWorld. I really did like the fact that the way that it processed was Wonder Woman was first with her gunslinger arc, and as she passes through, they go straight to Batman's arc. But towards the tail end of Batman's arc, he sees Wonder Woman in the Damos's I guess it's his palace. And so Batman doesn't know she's Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman can't remember the fact that she was the gunslinger in the scenario before, and she doesn't know who Batman is. So when Batman finishes his arc, he goes to the next stage, and she's saying, I have a feeling I'm trying to find home too. So she goes with them. And then it actually goes to Clark Kent's arc as a special agent. And it shows that Bruce Wayne is actually playing a highway patrolman. And they look at each other and say, do I know you? No. Do you know me? No. And it's like, oh, okay, let's just move on. And so they go into the diner, and you see that Wonder Woman is sitting down by herself. All three of them say that they look familiar to each other, but they can't remember how they know each other, let alone how they know themselves. And so it's this interesting passing ships in the night, and just almost by muscle memory, they try to figure things out of who they are. And they don't necessarily figure that out until a certain point in the movie. But I like the fact that it wasn't just this scenario where they just wake up and they have to remind each other, like, hey, Bruce, you're Batman, or hey, Diana, you're actually Wonder Woman. The last thing we have is the animation. I would say that was the one thing that took the longest for me to get used to. I'm gonna give it a 3 egos, and that is being very generous. I'm used to that maybe that 2000s style of animation, not necessarily the Bruce Timm all shoulders and no legs, but that dynamic and fluid style of the I guess the later 2000s that came out with some of the DC animated movies. With this style of animation that they used for this movie, it's this weird in between of the style that you see in Archer and maybe Bruce Timm. The characters are pretty much proportionate. You know, there's no big shoulders, little legs. Everyone's proportional, and in certain scenes, like extremely muscular, which was cool. You know, you don't really have to have the whole bodybuilder's body. You want to at least look functional with the muscles that you do have. The only problem in certain parts where it didn't look like there were outlines to certain features like lips or maybe chin. Um, the art style looked kind of blocky in parts, and it looked like you were watching paper move in certain aspects as well. All in all, it took me maybe about, I'd say, a good 45 to 50 minutes to get used to, just because I'm not used to that animation style. And that's a concern that I'd have with future animation products with DC, is that even if you're going to give these animated movies that are in this universe theatrical releases, is the art going to be the same? I would say that I'd rather skew more to the style of anime art because it's usually uniform, over the animation that we were shown in Justice League WarWorld. So for everything else, that's pretty much the review that I have on it. I thoroughly enjoyed the plot structure behind it, how it played off, and the movie actually kind of ends on a cliffhanger. And so it actually got me excited for more of this. These types of movies for the animated universe for DC, and look forward to seeing what they come out with next. But for now, guys, that's what I've got for today. I will check you later. E.G.O out.